For the benefit of those of you listening to this tape, the first part of this class session will consist of short talks given by members of the study groups, the one in Boulder City, Nevada, and the other in Wickenburg, Arizona. They were requested to give short talks just to give us all something that would be helpful and beneficial in any way at all. And the more difficult it is for a person to give a talk like this, the more difficult it is, the more beneficial it will be to them. We're always trying to do something we don't want to do, but to do it consciously with a purpose of seeing how we really are, seeing our phony confidence, for example, our phony self-assurance, how in a situation like in the home we can talk very profoundly about any subject on earth, but get us in front of someone who doesn't know us, and we try to bluff them, and we sense that they see through us, then we're sunk. The only real confidence we have is when, as we said in the earlier talks, we cease to try to be confident, because we're not trying to get a thing from anyone else, not trying to impress them, to prove what great teachers we are, what great speakers we are. So let's all listen and get something. They're getting a double benefit themselves, because they're putting themselves in perhaps an awkward position to some degree or other, but we'll get something from what they say. So Joan, please start.
I'll make it worse. I'll stand. And I've been trying very, very hard not to think about what I was going to talk about, because that has always been my protection, get myself set in advance and then know what I'm going to do or going to say in a safe way. But we were talking about this work at lunch today, and we were talking about smoking. I was asked about smoking, and I said something that I've been thinking about since, that smoking isn't my problem, but I will take it many steps further. People are not my problem. Life is not my problem. Situations are not my problem. My job has never been my problem. The only problem I've ever had has been me, because of my reactions, because of the way I took situations and the things that people said, and my attitude toward the various jobs that I've had. And this is something that I'm working on as best I can to bring it from an intellectual understanding into an emotional understanding, to bring it from the head down here, because when things are fairly calm and there's no challenge, then I know that I'm the problem. When there's a challenge and things go wrong, then the old reaction, the mechanical automatic reaction, is it's his fault or hers or theirs, or if only, or I should have. And Mr. Howard has said a number of times that the confusion is many times deeper than we realize. And this I'm seeing as I go along, that the confusion is so deep. And then what I think is true now, I may not think is true 5 minutes from now, because I'm in a different situation. My intellectual understanding may be at a certain level, but bringing it into the emotional understanding, because I live in the emotions. I've always lived in the emotions. And this is the difficult part of the work for me, but something that I know needs to be done and can be done. We sit in these classes and certain things ring bells with us. And I'll say that's true. I hadn't seen that quite that way before. But then the test is, the next time a challenge comes up, will I be able to hold on to that understanding? Will I remember it? It's more than memory, I know it. At this point, for me, it has to be memory so that I have something to work with, but the time has to come when it's no longer memory, but it's a part of me. Just as I know simple arithmetic, because it's a part of me now. This is, there are so many things that are touched on in these classes, but then the more we're exposed to the teachings or to the the books and the tapes and the actual classes themselves, the more comes into focus and we can tie together. And this, we said this at lunch, this is the only way. It's not an easy way, but it's the only way. Are there any questions or comments at this point on anything I've said?
Part of your work is to comment and ask questions on what she talked about. You do deliberate thinking. Pay attention to what she says and then ask a question and make a comment. Dick, please.
John, when you say this is the only way, could you elaborate on that a little more?
Yeah, and do you want to go on with your question? I think you had something to...
No, that well, perhaps because we missed part of the conversation at lunch, but well, just when you say this is the only way.
All right, it's not a dogmatic. That's what you meant. All right, I've been through many forms of help and so-called self-help, and they all promised much and gave nothing.
Would you please detail on that, please? Just,
Yeah.
I always ask you that, I know,
All right,
but please do.
one of my favorite subjects.
Yeah.
I'll be sorry, we'll be here for
Go ahead.
hours. I started with psychiatry, and I went through one very well-known self-help organization, and then I went through just about every metaphysical organization that there was, both in the New Thought area, and then I went into formal religion because it had never been a part of my upbringing. I spent time and money looking for some sort of help, and I didn't even know what the help would be or could be. I went to a woman's psychic for 6 months, not only or not so much because I wanted to know what the future would be, but she was the only one at that point who would get through to me and tell me certain basics that were necessary. But I would get, in all of these things, I would get to a point where something didn't ring true, something was false. And this is what I was saying to you last night, that there were germs of truth in all of these teachings and philosophies and religions or so-called religions, but they were mechanically given, they were mechanically taught or preached, and they were not lived by the people who taught them or preached them or who wrote them. There was no understanding. There was the mechanical presentation, but nothing behind it. And we sense it within ourselves because the truth is within us, and we know after a while that there's something that is not complete here, or is not true. But I know that each time I had to think about leaving it because I could see that any help that was there was no longer there for me. I'd get scared because I didn't know where to go beyond that.
Right.
But I see now that the more things we're disillusioned with, and I can add to that being disillusioned with so-called worldly success, gaining the whole world and losing your soul, being disillusioned with having many, many friends, and seeing that that's all false, and that the friends, certainly in my case, were just as sick and neurotic as I was. And then being afraid that there might not be anything beyond that. But we do have to, I know that I do, have to let go of all of these things so that I could make room for what was beyond it. It was a rather long explanation. Is that full? We have to see that all of these things are false so that when we come to the truth, something in us knows without our questioning it. This is true, this is right.
It comes down to a question, as I see it, of not just talking about it, and see all these other, whatever they be, religious organizations, philosophies, of talking about it and the difference between doing it and having someone recognize whether you're doing it or whether you aren't.
Right, because they were all talking and then I saw behind the scenes and they weren't living what they were talking. There was complete division.
And that frightens you, doesn't it?
It's very
At first,
frightening
yeah.
because I had looked to these people as authority, as knowing. And then when I saw that they didn't really know, I got very scared because if they didn't, who did?
Where are you going to go?
Where are you going to go from here? And it didn't seem as if it was anywhere at the time. That's all right.
The difference between doing and talking is not talking about what I'm doing. The difference between doing and talking is not talking about out there to what I am doing in here.
Well, that could be part of it. That could be. Of course, as Mr. Howard has pointed out, we need knowledge. We have to know how to proceed. There are certain things that we do need to know, but then we have to take them beyond the knowledge, the intellectual state or stage, and start using them in our own life. Sally, you have your hand?
No, I didn't.
If there are no other questions or comments, that'll be all.
All right, one.
Just like John said, the confusion that we're not even aware of is 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 miles deep. I see this in myself. Now, I would like to talk about a subject that has a lot to do with me and to every one of you here, which I do not understand it fully, but I sense it is true. If the division of the mind, a divided mind, or having an independent mind from somebody else. If I think that I have a separate mind from the rest of you, I will attribute myself either intelligent, more intelligent than any of you, or less intelligent. Superior or less superior. More spiritual or less spiritual. It's a divided mind. Either successful or a failure. This is what keeps me and most of us in frustration. We divide everything. That I am separated, that I'm actually separated from all of you. Even the body. Why? Because I take my name, Juan, and my body as being me. I'm also separated from you. It's a big division there. And as long as I think in these terms, there will be a lot of self-pity, sentimentality, feelings of rejections, injustice, and all that. There is only one mind as far as I sense this. I know that this is true. I sense it. It has to be the way. It cannot be any other way. Even right here, as I'm standing right here, do I want to be divided? Do I want to look more intelligent than Sally, Joan, Rudy, and Connie? This will put me in a tremendous turmoil inside, a fear. Also, if I want approval from any of you, will also put me into conflict. This is a divided mind. A mind that lives in the opposites of yes and no. But seeing it, that we do have this vanity, which it is, vanity. Seeing it that is there. Let's do not deceive ourselves. Because I know that it has a stronghold on me, and you can answer that for yourself, if it has any hold on any of you. And that's all I have to say for that. Any comments? I'll invite comments. Yes.
Vanity is something like jealousy.
What's that?
Jealousy.
Rudy, don't just say a word and make him work.
Is vanity something like jealousy? I desire to be better. I'd like to be better than somebody.
Okay, what is it based on? Inferiority complex, right? If I feel I'm an inferior person, if I only, as John explained, if only I could be this, if only I could have this, and I compare myself with others, and I will be jealous. Okay? I would like to say this much, if there's any more comments. If, in case some of you did not quite understand, I would like Mr. Howard to give a little comment on what I said about the divided mind.
All right, yeah. When I have taken, he mentioned the opposites. It's complex to explain, but follow. I'll start with ABC. thought divides itself into opposites at all times. Yes, no, Frenchman, German, you, I, God, sinner, God, man, devil, God, and the rest of it. In my illusion, I take one side of these opposites. I'm the Frenchman, automatically that makes you the German. Or I am the Christian, and that makes you the heathen, who I must go out and save. This becomes my identity, and the most enormous task on earth is for me to give it up. If I'm ever going to give it up, I must be able to remember myself when I slap this label on me. Look, I am successful. We'll take that as an example. I am a successful person in one way or another. I got a good home, I'm respectable and all that, or I've made money, whatever. This is what I call me. This is very precious to me and the last thing I want to give up. But if my suffering, my confusion, and my fear become intense enough, and I have been fortunate enough to come to a group like this, where I can be told these things, I can begin to see the opposite of that. I can begin to see, in order for me to be successful, you must be a failure. I can't have success without you being a failure. Impossible. I can't be the Christian missionary whom God has appointed to save the world, unless the people in Africa or China are uncivilized heathens. See, I must have an opposite. Pseudo-good must always have a background of evil. Otherwise you can't have pseudo-good. The opposites again, good and evil. But the first time I catch a glimpse of how I am keeping my artificial self into place by, on the mental level, comparing myself with you, the first time I see this, I will be terrified, because now I know what I must do, which is to die to the label, to the thought, to time, and live above it. I don't care if we had 1,000 meetings here, we would always come back to the one point that I must die to my illusory self, which can only exist if I compare myself with another human being, or with what I must attain. I'm a flop now, but just wait till 5 years from now when my plans work out. Then I'll be a success. Find some opposite and dare to give up both sides of it. And when you see both sides, when you're able to see both sides, that means you're above both sides. As long as you're identified with one side, you cannot see the other. Not really. You'll battle it, but you won't see it. Remember we talked about enemies this morning? If I give up enemies, I will then see that the whole thing was illusion I played on myself in order to hang on to my so-called security. Try to see something you're comparing yourself with and give both up at once, which will put you through a shock depending on the degree of it, your degree of identification with it. That's all for now. Connie?
I'm volunteering. And I'm even going to get off.
I watched a movie, part of a movie the other night, Bonnie and Clyde. And in this movie, Bonnie and Clyde, who are bank robbers, robbed a grocery store. And the man, the owner of the store, came at Clyde with a meat cleaver and attacked him, and they fought. And I thought then, I saw violence in the man who was defending himself and his property. And I thought, I think sometime, not too very long ago, I would not have seen violence in that man. I would have seen violence in the criminal,
Right.
but not in the man who was defending his property.
Right.
And thought about that as bringing in opposites, the good guy and the bad guy.
Right.
And I would have identified with the good guy.
Whichever he was.
Right. And well, out of that, I thought about the good guy and about myself identifying with the good guy and seeing, as I have seen in the past year, that there is violence in me, and how in the past and even now to some extent I can or will try to justify that violence. In the case of this man, he was defending his property. And I'm sure that I find many excuses to hide the fact that I am a violent person, and there is violence in me.
Well, invite questions and comments.
Yes, Connie, I have a question. Would you justify watching that type of movie on television?
Oh, this is something that went through my mind also. This is a little struggle I have with myself, allowing Mark, Larry's my son, sitting over there, watching a movie of this type. I learned something from it. And if I can look at something like that or watch a movie like that, no, I wouldn't turn on the television and watch it of my own choosing. Mark was watching it, and I watched a part of it, and I did learn something from it.
Right. You were working on yourself right in an everyday situation. That's valuable. Oh, that's valuable. She saw that both sides. See, that's good. Both the German and the Frenchman, the American and the Swede, whatever, same boat, same thing. Any other comment? One at a time. Kathy, then.
No, I was just thinking of the situation there where you were in a life situation, but really taking it in a different way and taking something good out of it. Because to me, it seems a little ridiculous to just remove yourself from the life situation, because then really you don't have the things to work on, do you? That are not that it's possible to do it anyway, but it's not even really desirable.
Going back to our talking about moving this morning, I would love to pack up and move to Boulder City and be around the Boulder City group and run away from my job and everything else. But really, there is where I have work to do.
Yes.
Walking in that
Right.
office every day. That's my
That's,
battlefield.
that is the right attitude, believe me. Whew, tremendous. Joan, yes.
It's not, yes, you mentioned seeing the violence in yourself. This is not easy to admit to a group of people because it's something we've tried to hide from ourselves over the years. And it's also not just a matter of getting up and saying I'm a violent person, but having seen it with a great deal of emotion. So I understand what you're saying.
This letter.
Now, how is it in reality if somebody really aggresses you? You must not get violent, but what are you going to do?
This is a thought that passed through my mind too. The question, don't we have a right to defend ourselves? First of all, I think when we know, when we understand what we're working for, the answer is there. We would know how to act in a situation like that. And one thought that comes to my mind, Vernon, is that the expression, we attract,
Your life attracts your events or something like that. Your being attracts your life?
Something like that, that I feel like that has a place in there, and I'm not sure just what it means. That if I don't value what I have, if I can live in riches and yet don't really know where I'm at, and none of this means anything to them. Maybe I don't attract that sort of thing. I don't know that. I'm working on that part of it. I understand.
Fine, fine. Well, yes, one more I got. This gentleman.
Would be one answer to this. The devil never attacks God.
Would you say that again, please?
The devil never attacks God.
Impossible. Impossible. Why? They're on two different levels. The devil attacks another devil, but one of the two devils is calling himself God. And they burned him at the stake, didn't they? God, in quote marks, burned the devils at the stake during the Inquisition. No. This is why you are, I'll say the word, I don't like to, but you're perfectly safe when you're in truth. Perfectly safe, regardless of what happens to the physical body. That goes anyway, so what point does that make? You're safe. And it does connect just with what you said. Your friendships do change. You don't go into these situations. You go down, you got in a fight down at the bar. That's because of your level. You start to change yourself. You're not going down to that bar because you know the level of that bar and you know your level. That you get fighting with people every chance you get because you love it. You start to change yourself. You don't go down to those situations anymore. Your being does indeed attract your life. Fine. Unless there's anything final. Okay. Rudy.
Let me say first that we do protect ourselves very much from getting injured, our ego's injured. I've seen this a whole lot in myself, and I see if I cannot give myself conscious minor shocks in the outside life, it's pretty hard to give myself a conscious shock here. And the reason being is that somehow since childhood I've taken a lot of shocks, I know this, but it's my old self. It's my old self that has been embarrassed, shy, timid, and all because it's been pounced a lot. So any shock that comes along, it takes the same reaction. So I'm trying to devise a way here where I cannot hide myself. And I don't know how, but I'll try. I was going to talk on self-knowledge. This I had given myself. It's the general topic, self-knowledge. What is self-knowledge? And self-knowledge, as they say, is the only thing that can change me. That is, these are facts about myself. What am I really like? And to arrive at self-knowledge seems like we have to give ourselves tasks every day in order to find out a little bit more of what we really are. And well, when I began the work, I thought it was pretty easy. I could talk pretty well at first. You know, they had to force me, but if I was forced, the words came very easy. And now they're becoming harder because I guess I'm starting to see myself as I really am. That is, I do not know what I'm talking about. But now let's get to self-knowledge again. Self-knowledge would be that how I evade getting really shocked. How I used to hide my angers is one place. I used to hide my angers a lot from other people, and now I find myself that I'm being forced somehow not to hide my angers. I have to come out with it. I have to tell the other person, whoever I am angry at, that they better get on the ball or something like that, because yes, no, there's a link. My whole life, my father has dominated me in that he always made me work very hard. And now that I'm in the position to make others work hard, I want to work as hard as I do. This gets me very irritated and angry every day. And self-knowledge. That's right. Now I'm forced at certain points to come out with my anger. Even though I want to just to say, look, mister, you better get on the ball. But it has to come out with anger because it's been built up. It's in there. I guess it's getting back revenge. And another part of me is getting thrilled, getting very thrilled. Emotional thinking, getting lost in daydreams, thinking what other people will think about me. This is an extreme anxiety, and the thing is, like I said this morning, the thing is to feel right. Okay, to feel right. What is to feel right in a way? Well, it's not to be in thought. It's all of a sudden you might find yourself not in thought. Like all of a sudden you might say, well, I'm not angry anymore. Then again you find yourself angry because you have brought up the thought. Then you recall what you should be angry at. Because I have found myself in those situations. And but to feel right, well, you don't feel the old self there anymore. The old self that gets very anxious. Like this morning as I was walking up this way, I didn't find my old self interfering, which the old self, like I said, was timid and shy and afraid, and what were people thinking about it. So I couldn't very well walk the streets without some tension and fear, which this morning I didn't see the presence of that old self. So to end it, I could say that my old self seems to have been living in a lot of negativity and taking that negativity as there were shocks. There were a lot of pouncing, embarrassments, like I said. But that's my old self. I mean, I have built this old self somehow where I'm the persecuted and somebody's persecuting me. That is all. Any questions?
Do you get when you are able to tell other people off and tell them to get on the ball, do you get a pleasure out of it?
Let me see. I guess if they do, I would. But somehow I realize they won't. They only do it for a while and then...
No, I mean, when you said you tell
Yeah.
people to get on the ball. What's your spirit when you tell them?
Well, once I checked it out, then I think it seemed to have made me very happy at the point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because I brought it out at that moment.
You saw what I'm getting at, obviously, is whether you're getting a false pleasure out of telling
Right.
someone off.
Right.
Any of you have seen this?
Right. Well, where I make an effort, let's say, I say, so I'm angry. Now, how can I tell this somebody else to work without this anger? So I go ahead and do it,
As best
but
you could.
it's there anyway.
But you work.
But once I did it,
That's all.
it felt, I guess, the old self again.
Yes, but
Rather-
he has weakened it. Has he not? He has weakened
yes.
it. Who else?
Rudy, this morning from getting off the bus to up here, were you aggravated or angry at any of us at any time that you recall? For not picking you up, not being there, someone not coming along the road with the ride?
Rudy had to walk from Wickenburg to here. That's the point.
Well, you weren't.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that all?
I have one question. You said that being dominated in your childhood or something like that, right? And now that you're in this work, in other words, people had power over you once, now you will desire that power to get even with them. Could they have any possibility?
Yeah, most probably. Now I see that, well, I always probably had that anger that other people weren't working because I was being made to work.
Right.
So anytime I see anybody not working, it gets me angry. That's all.
Okay, fine. Shut it off. 2 minutes. Okay.
While each person has been talking, I wonder what the others have been thinking. Those of you who haven't had to talk yet, have you been watching your own thoughts? Have you felt that you could have done a better job than they? And you may have been thinking that and not realized it. But you're here to realize what's going on in your mind. That's the whole purpose of being here, is to become conscious of what we're doing. And you're not to fall asleep. That's an order. All our lives, we have collected what we have wanted to hear about ourselves, collected all the nice things, and rejected what we don't want to hear. And through this fictional image that we have built, we actually feel that we're nice people. And that's pure fallacy. We're not. I want you to think of yourself as idiots, because this is really what we are. We are idiots. An idiot does not know what he's doing. He's controlled. He lives in a world of imagination. And this is what we're doing. We don't know what's going on. We're controlled by our emotions, our negative emotions, our thoughts. We think our thoughts can harm us. And we let them. So we're living an idiotic life. And to stop being idiotic, we have to see, first of all, that we are idiots. That this is what we are, and stop pretending. As this lady said, let's start being honest. Because this is the first requirement. Seeing our own deception. It's idiotic to let others live our lives for us, is it not? To be overpowered by a stern look. To let others control us. And even to let our own compulsions, our own drive, live life for us. This is not why we're here. We've to see that to wake up, we have to see all the negativities. We've to stop calling ourselves nice names. This is also another requirement. Stop saying we're nice people. And start seeing what's wrong. Because it's only through seeing what's wrong, which is positive, by the way, that we can ever hope to become real people and really act from ourselves. And an idiot can't be self-propelling. So we have to stop being idiots. To want to be a successful person, to want to be better than the next person. If I hope, or if I wish that I'm a better talker than Juan, as he brought out, Rudy, or any of the others who have spoken, my motive is entirely wrong, and I'm damaging myself. And irrespective of the criticism, that the talks may get, that's not the reason we're here. So let's stop being idiots. I think that's all.
Invite comments.
Any comments or questions?
The comments from idiots.
Is this an idiotic question? Well, that's right, but mostly we like to attribute nice qualities to ourselves. But you're right, whatever gives us this feeling of I, we will gather. Any more? Yes, I think.
That's what Stella was saying, I think, is that it's just the other side of the coin.
Sure,
I mean,
yeah.
you are enjoying the feeling of being worthless. So it's just two sides of the coin.
Yeah, we called it self-condemnation earlier. Same thing. It's still, I am still there. Either
That's
side.
right. Anything that
Does this also tie in with seeing two sides of a thought at the same time?
You can't see two sides of the thought at the same time.
Right.
You can see it immediately afterward and compare them on the mental level. But when there's one thought, that's all there is. This is why we think we're one person, because there is indeed one thought at the same time. But this is Sally's floor.
You got one more question from another one?
Yes, one.
Yeah, that was very good. I was feeling you. On failure and success, we could take either label, and it's how we get the condemnation, self-condemnation. I'm a failure.
That's right. Whatever label, but really, at least I always attributed nice qualities, and I think most of us do. We think we're nice and we're not.
For one thing, if I may add something, look at the social benefits you get from having an image of being a nice person. You attract other people to you, and they in turn give you money or honor or whatever you get. Can you imagine any politician getting up and saying that he's evil? The more profitable image is that you're a good man. So it's very profitable from the material level. Who else on seven?
Did you have anything? Thank you.
Okay, fine. Larry.
You have your pad and pencil, please. I'm going to do a little something different, perhaps. I want to ask questions. And some of them in here may be questions with, all right, I'll back up again. Some of these make sense to me and may not make sense to you. They make sense to me. What I wish is not so much of a question and answer time that I'm given here to speak or whatever, but I just wish your first answer, your, not your thought answer, not your answer you think I want, but your first answer. Okay? I have 16 questions which I wish to ask. Mark is going to count the hands. Now, if you have an affirmative, I wish a hand or two or something, a hand so Mark can count them. If you have a I don't know or a negative or a I'm lost, just nothing, please. Okay? All right. How many, please raise your hand, just to, in here, tell the truth.
All the time?
No question. How many tell the truth? How many is that, Mark? Nice. All right. How many lie? One. Mark Kitchen? William?
This is embarrassing, isn't it?
You can sneak them up later if you see the others who want to join with them. If you don't, just leave them down. You got me number? 11. Thank you. Now, and quick on this, how many don't lie? How many do not lie? This is a little softer, but how many in here love someone? How many love someone? A little higher, please, because you keep a little short over there. How many we got, Mark? 3. Thank you. I'm nervous as heck, so I'm just purposely being slow. Who in here loves all? Who loves everybody? One and I think is 2, so 1 and a half, right? Pardon?
I think for 0.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I've got 1 and a half. Are you all the way or are you halfway? You love everybody? You love everybody. Alles die Welt bestimmt. Yep? Danke. Okay, we have 2 on it. How many love God? 1, 2, 3. See any more, Mark? How many have fair? Have fair. F-E-A-R. Fair.
Fear.
Fair. Fair. Right. Keep them up, please, so Mark can count. Please.
I thought you said how many have had a fair.
That's the next question. That's the next question. How's it kind on? What are you trying to do? Kind on?
My hand's been
Knock it down. Now, that is an underfrage. That was another question. These are it kind of. Right. How many did we get? 13 have fair. All right. You pointed at the clock or?
No, you're all right, Larry. Go ahead. You're
all right.
fine.
Thanks.
You're fine.
How many are saved? How many are right now? How many are saved? Huh? How many are saved? Oh, I lost my German. Yeah, diese Kirche ist in Kirche ist saved. What is saved in German? Saved of Kirche. Nein? Danke. Okay, nobody's saved. We're all lost sheep. No, nobody's marked? Thank you. All right. For the sake of one person or two people, I will ask this question of you two people. When you go to church and you worship God in church, they say, come up, you are baptized, you have affirmed, you are saved, you're going to heaven. Now, do you understand my question? Do you, sir? All right. Then let's just pass on that. Thank you. Nobody saved. How many respect your fellow man? High, please. So we got 3 going. Anybody else volunteers?
Yes, it has to be 100% for yes.
We have 3 more. Pardon? It has to be what?
100%.
100% what?
Respect for everyone.
How many of those did you say you had?
16, sir. And,
where are you now?
Number 10, all right. How many understand respect? Understand respect, the word. Understand respect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How do I look, Mark? 7 the number? How many are faithful to others? How many are faithful to others? Just as we know the word. 1, 2. How many are faithful to self, to ourself? None? How many have a friend? 1 person has a friend. 2, 4 people have 5 people have a friend. 4 and a half, 6 people have a friend. All right.
The rest of us have enemies.
Who has a lot of friends? How many have a lot of friends? Not a singular, a lot of friends. Anybody more? Who has no friends? Who of us don't have a friend? You don't have a friend. One doesn't have a friend. Okay, now we are on number 16. Excuse me, sir. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Mark will be your friend.
All right, number 16, which is not, in a way, is a question. Then it will end what I have.
You're all right, yeah.
This is a little more time. Take a little time on this. This is not just a hard question or a loaded question. Think about it just a moment, momentarily, and then raise your hand. And I wish to count on this also. How many would trade the life that we are living for a different way of life? I'm speaking as if I were inside of you. How many of us or me would trade the life I am living for a different way of life? Now, if I may have a show of hands. Can you get my count, Mark? 10? Sally, you didn't raise your hand. This is all I have for my time. I thank you.
Was there any comments on that from anyone?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Go ahead. What's your comment?
Let's see. But Larry, all this was thought out beforehand, you know? Is there a formula you have there or what?
If I understand your question, I'll answer it.
Okay,
This came to my mind during the noon hour, and only during the noon hour. Something from the morning class caused me to, if this is prepared, to prepare the speech. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was wondering how kind of you
Okay, fine. Right.
That's very valuable as long as everybody has the same definition for the words the questions he asked. So could you, is there any clarification necessary? Or should we just go
No. I called on you for another reason. And I think you know what it is.
My turn now?
John, to talk on the difference between hearing the truth and understanding the truth. And then my conception of this, I want to mention 3 words. I want to mention being comfortable, that's concept. Mechanicalness and resistance. I want to start out that obviously there's a difference between hearing the truth and understanding the truth. Sitting here or anywhere is easy. We can all come to a meeting and hear something and make that exercise in itself relatively simple. And this is hearing the truth. Don't yawn so soon. But okay. What I want to project then is that to know the difference between hearing it and understanding it. Since hearing it is so easy, we'll get enthused about this. We'll write a few notes down. Maybe during the week we'll look at our notes again. That to begin to understand it, we have to be uncomfortable from what we've heard. Somehow, if we're going to have any understanding of this, it's got to leave the stage as being a nice weekend. And some of the things that we've heard, if we're going to have any kind of understanding rather than just hearing it, has to be uncomfortable for us. Now this connects with being mechanical. In other words, we can hear the truth in a mechanical way. That is, somebody will say something and we'll think about it. It's the first thing. And the reason we choose to think about it rather than just let it, then forget about it, is because, well, we say, well, yes, that has some, it sounds good to me. And in order to make it sound good to us, we had to evaluate the words. And as soon as we did that, we usually thought. And of course, as we've heard now in each meeting now, this thought has to compare. In order to take anything, it has to compare, it divides. So in order to divide this, we're simply doing this all mechanically because the only way I can choose to think about it, any way a word can strike me, to strike my fancy and make me want to write it down, is because of experience. If it's a concept I've never felt before, it will have no meaning. And if it's a word, for instance, I don't even know, I won't even remember the word. In other words, I'm talking about tyranny, the tyranny of experience. And this is the tyranny of being mechanical, of hearing something mechanically. Because anything that I'm going to value or judge from the words I've heard are going to be from our own experience. In other words, already what we know. I'm setting this off against understanding the truth. This comes in to resistance, the third word I wanted to mention.
hearing the truth is easy, and it's going to leave us comfortable, unless, of course, we want to reject it, and that's easy too. We just reject it. That's staying comfortable. But if we're going to understand it at all, that is, a person who does not have full understanding, it's going to cause some discomfort. And I want to mention two examples. It's going to cause physical discomfort. I might not know everything that I'm talking about. I'm not sure. But these I do know. It causes physical discomfort and mental discomfort. Now, physical discomfort is an example of that. What we have to do, we have to notice how our very physical presence is a burden to people. If we do this, well, we have to choose if we want to do it or not. But this indicates a resistance that we have towards the truth. The whole time we've been here, we've been talking about being nicer people. Well, that's the general aim. We haven't been talking about that. And so we'll go on Monday and notice how we're a burden to other people. And the mental resistance, we've seen it several times here, and I have it too. When we hear a truth, we want to divide it into opposites. There's a maxim. I'll give you two maxims as an example. Sleep not in work. Our immediate reaction to that is that we are awake and well. We'll read something in the work, and it'll say, have willpower. The first thing comes to our mind, well, obviously I have will. Another, or you'll say, well, how can I have willpower when I don't even have any will? I'm such an evil person, etc., etc. Another maxim would be, become conscious. So our immediate reaction to that is, how can I become conscious when I'm not conscious, when I have none at all? This is a mental or a thought resistance towards the truth. So I just want to close with this one thing. The main difference between hearing the truth and understanding it is one of being comfortable. That is, if we're ever going to do anything with it. If we don't understand it, it's going to be uncomfortable. And this is a glory hallelujah, but it's easy to understand how we're not getting it. So I'll close with that and set that up as one difference, and possibly here I've left out some differences, so I'll invite comments on other differences between learning and understanding, or questions or
I just like your point, which you said in different words, but he said, in essence, he said, an uncomfortable weekend is a profitable weekend. Very good.
I've been very comfortable with him now.
Right. I thought that was a particularly good point, because we are, in life, we're made to feel comfortable. First, uncomfortable, perhaps, in a way. I was thinking of religion, which will make you uncomfortable a little bit on one hand, but then they'll give you the comfort by saying, if you join us, if you participate in our activities, if you put money toward building another church, then you'll be comfortable and you'll be saved. They'll tell you a little bit of what is wrong with you as an individual, but they'll never go, they can't possibly go into the depths that are being gone into here because they don't understand it themselves. But the more uncomfortable we are hearing these truths, then the better it is. And that was part of my answer to Dick.
They present the problem, then present themselves as the solution, and the gullible us, all of us, believe it because we don't know any better. Right. We didn't know any better.
Well, I'm glad,
any more on that? Yeah.
Why is it that everything's supposed to be so uncomfortable? Because I know uncomfortableness is a form of growth.
No, that's not the reason. That's an outcome. Okay,
Go ahead, you answer first.
No, I want to ask another question.
Well, let's get to this.
To clarify, perhaps the question, it's down to semantics, the words and their meaning. She's asking why does everything have to be uncomfortable? Are you using the word uncomfortable as synonymous with misery?
Excuse me. No, wait a minute. Stop it. You're acting as if you're not uncomfortable. You are uncomfortable. So you're saying why should we be uncomfortable here? You're uncomfortable wherever you are. What we're trying to do here is to be consciously uncomfortable, to see what's going on. And we have our own special brand of discomfort, to be sure, to tell us all that we've been living a lie. Can you take that discomfort? If you can take that, then you'll take the discomfort of getting fired after 30 years without discomfort, because you're a free man. Now go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I didn't make it clear. That's what I tried to draw in with the two examples of a physical resistance and a mental resistance. You'll notice that if you're ever going to get anywhere, you have to see yourself, right? And so notice yourself on Monday, how you, even though you don't know it, but you'll be a burden to, I don't know who, but...
You'll lean on someone, is that what you're saying? Psychologically?
Just your very physical presence. You watch. You watch. Okay, so it doesn't mean...
Any more? Sally is...
I was going to say that the thing of ourselves as Ambassador is entirely different from how we've always taken ourselves.
Yes, sir.
We think we're God's children.
God's sunshine on us.
Which is baloney.
Yeah, the thing I mean about...
You don't have to be so earthly about it.
Well...
That's what I mean. People at work, I've made, you come in every day and you make them laugh, or I've always thought that the reason they smile when they're around me and things is because of me. And you have to realize that this is not the case.
Did you have something, Jim?
No.
One.
In other words, what you're trying to tell me is that if I don't see my discomfort, I will deceive myself that I'm in comfort. Like if I say I'm a blabbermouth, always talking. And if I go in the opposite to observe it and kind of knock that off, and I will be quiet in front of others, then I will see the nervous, the discomfort in it.
Yes.
Otherwise, I won't be able to see it. In other words, I escape in worries and smiles, right?
That's correct.
There will be one place.
Yeah.
Okay. From this point on, I'd like to see the hands of volunteers who will stand up here and give us something. Anyone at all who... Okay, Mark's first. Speak up loud and clear, Mark.
Okay. Since the beginning of class, I've been trying to think of what I was going to say. I kept on trying to think, and I just didn't get anywhere. So I decided to try and forget about trying to think of what to say, and it came right to me what I was going to say in that speech. And what I want to talk about is, last Sunday we had this little paper to do about what we're hiding inside of ourselves, and one of my answers was fear of my mother and father. And I saw a little while ago fear when my father came up and asked me to count the number of hands when he gave the answers. I was scared if I did it wrong, what was he going to do to me and stuff like that. So I just saw it and I got rid of it. And I did it easy. I didn't even make a mistake.
You're free of the fear went away, so now you're thinking clearly, more clearly at least, right? Yeah. Anything else? Or
You finished, right? You waiting for comments? I think it's fantastic. Very hard what you do.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah. And see now, Mark, and the rest of us, that we don't have to be a slave to what anyone might have done to us, father, mother, school teacher. You can be a free human being out of it entirely. And this is what we're not out, but we're working. Oh, we're going to work twice as hard. Who else? Rudy.
Right. I had the same thing reaction with my father all the time was fear whenever he told me to do something. And since fear did overtake me a whole lot, I always ended up making a lot of mistakes. So, it was very good.
Very good. Who else? Okay, fine, Mark.
Thank
Good.
you.
Good. We need a second volunteer. They're trying to volunteer you.
I'll
He
commit
had
myself.
a good firm clutch on that chair there. I don't think
I won't let you off of you.
I think one shock I just had when all week I've been in back of mind preparing. I have a lesson to give in the morning to third and fourth graders, and my lesson I'm supposed to follow is on words and appreciation and what they mean. So perhaps that has made me a little bit more than usual aware of words and what they mean to one person does not necessarily make it mean the same thing to me. And your questions brought that up because I recognized confusion within myself because I felt that I did not understand what he meant by that, by specific words that he was using, and yet he was wanting a yes and no, a yes or no commitment without me being aware of what he was really trying to convey with the words, and I felt confusion. But the shock that I had from Sally was when she referred to me as lady, and you used that term a couple of times last night too, and I realized I've always had a resentment toward that word and what that word meant to me, because I was always very much of a tomboy, and the lady meant someone that was an image that I didn't particularly want to associate with. And I caught myself, both last night and today, when I was referred to as lady, as recognizing that I had this resentment toward that word.
Toward a word.
Because that word portrayed a particular image to me that I didn't particularly want to conform to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's helpful. Huh? Okay.
Any comments?
Comments? Questions? Huh? Yeah, that was fine.
Yes. Question, what is your kind of difference, your different definition of woman and lady?
To me, a lady represented something unattainable. I mean, someone off on a separate and apart from others.
And woman?
Something fulfilling as an individual. That's freedom to be accepted as I am and not as what someone else would like to see me up on a pedestal.
How would you have responded if your name was used?
I would have felt that they were identifying me.
On the
I
spot?
would have felt comfortable with my name because I could identify with my name, and I didn't particularly want to identify with the word lady.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah. Very good. We get the word and it has a certain meaning to us, and we react to the acquired meaning.
Maybe that person isn't giving you the meaning that you're taking.
Someone else would have been flattered. Oh, he called me a lady.
Mm-hmm.
See?
Yeah, and I found myself objecting to that.
Yeah, right. So, but you were watching anyway. Did you get him to volunteer yet?
Yes,
he said yes.
Oh.
I challenged him.
I remember one time Mr. Howard said that we ought not to be dismayed when we fail. There's a tendency to make a resolution, and it's not going to be this way. And then the Monday morning that you talk about comes, and here I go lapsing back into the old ways.
Yeah.
So I think that it might be a helpful device, at least I've used it sometimes, is to embrace that failure and to almost welcome it as a friend and to try to work with it and see if I can't use that and make an exercise out of that. So with that as a background, Connie was talking about seeing a movie on TV the other day. I saw a movie Thursday. It was on an airplane, but the funny thing was it was not an in-flight movie. This movie that I saw was inside my head, and it took place outside of Chicago. And the captain said, we're about 50 miles from Chicago. I flew from New Jersey to Phoenix with a stopover in Chicago. He said, we're about 50 miles outside of Chicago, but we're going to be delayed for about an hour and a half. There's only one runway going. There's some construction. And that's all I needed. And everything that we've been talking about the last couple of days just flashed across that screen. Well, first there was anger. I was angry with the captain. I was angry with the airlines because they knew all the while, or so I said, they knew all the while that there would have been a delay. Why couldn't they have told us sooner? If I had known sooner, maybe I could have made other arrangements. And there was the feeling of grandiosity that if I were in charge of that airline, you can bet there wouldn't be any delays at all. In fact, my planes would probably be ahead of schedule if I were in charge. So this whole thing and the resentment, I resented the fact that the airline personnel on the plane seemed so cheerful in view of all this inconvenience that they were causing us. And the fact that I would have to call, because some people were meeting me in Phoenix, and I would have to call ahead. And I wonder how they would feel about it. Would they blame me, and would they not like me because I inconvenienced them? You know about it. So this scenario unfolded itself in front of my eyes. I thought that I might as well use that hour and a half to some good use and try to look at it and dissect it and see what was happening. And the first thing I saw was the bodily tensions that Rod was talking about. I was tense. I noticed my breathing was shallow, and I was all ready for a fight almost. And then I wondered what I was thinking, and I kind of traced it back to the ideas in my head, the ideas that I've explained, that I was almost elevating myself into some kind of a godlike presence, that I could run the airline, I could be on time. And then I saw that all I was presented with was the bare fact of an airplane being late, and that's all there was. Everything else was kind of frosting on the cake that I had added to it. And I tried to understand that since I caused my upset by the way I perceived this whole little incident, perhaps I can undo it. And what I did was simply try to snap the movie, as you suggested in the writings.
Right.
And I'm not going to say that I was operating on the level of consciousness or awareness for an hour and a half. The distinction that Juan drew the other night, because that would be a lie, and I raised my hand when I said I was a liar. But it did work, and it was helpful. This business of snapping the ruminations or the negative thinking, and I deliberately exercised myself in terms of being aware of where I was, feeling the seat against my backside and my arms on the armrest, and I found that it was helpful and it worked.
Yeah.
But again, if there's a delay going back, I must remind myself not to get too discouraged or dismayed if these old notions rear their ugly heads again. It's all part of the battle.
Yeah. Indeed.
Hopefully in time we'll get to them a little sooner, and they'll begin to lose their strength and their power over us.
Exactly. That's a perfect explanation of what this is all about. Go ahead, Larry.
The battle, of which you just spoke, I used to try to circumvent that battle, this psychological, if that fits, or the battle of which you just spoke, right? Now I encourage them to see them for what they are and to shed them.
Well, I don't go out of my way to cultivate them, but if they happen to be
I used to
there...
agitate them. What I'm saying is I used to agitate them, but now when I see this inner battle, it's an inner struggle. Now when I see it coming, I say, let it come and let it go rattle through. Why waste energy?
I mentioned to Connie, Kathy before that I think one helpful thing is to realize what enormous tolls of energy this all takes. By the end of the day, you're absolutely wiped out, and you realize that in physical terms, you've done not that much.
Right.
But you've been fighting all these battles inside, and that's all they're taking place inside.
Right. Who else on Sal?
Yes, I do have a strong feeling too, wherever I go, that I could run things better.
Sal, what?
Very strong, Sal. It is very strong, right? I mean, I do get angry, and I can run mental pictures forever.
Yeah. It's so pleasurable, isn't it? In quote marks. I think Joan had something.
Yes, I could understand so perfectly what you were saying. That this work you want to put it as simply as possible, is to help us shrug off life and to stop taking everything with self-reference.
Yeah.
From the very smallest of things to the most tremendous.
Also, he brought up a point we haven't taken up lately, even at Boulder City, the idea of snipping the mental movie. Just watch yourself. The captain says, hour and a half late, boom, your mental movie begins. I could have done better, bang, I like to poke him in the beak. So, we're here to snap that mental movie, and you just see how it welds itself together the minute you snap it for that long. Back it goes. What can you say the only way to go?
Those movies can be very, very debilitating. It's like carrying around a barbell all day long.
Right.
It's very terrible.
Who else? Final? Okay, fine.
Observe how much there is to learn from each one. Remark that how much we can learn. We get into mind that we can only learn from, say, someone like the teacher, like Vernon Howard, that Mark gets up and teaches us a very simple, quick lesson about dropping fear and self-observation, which is what it's all about. And watching my own nervousness as I was waiting to volunteer, or wondering if Juan made a remark to Kathy that you're going to be called on. I think ever since then I thought, I wonder, is Vernon going to do that? Is he going to call on? Watching our own nervousness about self-observation, although we haven't in the last two lessons really labeled it and gone into it, but that's really what it's all about. Each one, as they got up and talked, was really telling us about their own self-observation and their own mental movies that Sal so very well dramatized, that we all go through hour after hour. And with me, it particularly seems at night, there are times I just can't shut off. Something happens, I think about something, and it's just, no, how do I shut off this mental movie? Last time I was in Boulder City, I asked Vernon if I could get up and read one of his books or one of the workbooks, and that's really a coward's way out, because you should just sit there and suffer through it and see what comes. That's all.
Comments? I'll let me one comment. When we see how, now look, they all said it, every one of them said it. A sleeping person thinks he can do anything. He thinks he can, by willpower, be a nicer man tomorrow than I was mean to my wife yesterday, but I swear to you, dear, tomorrow I'm going to be different. Nothing. He thinks he can do. We're seeing we can't do anything. He's seeing the way his horror movie unreels at night. That is the beginning. That isn't discouraging. Someone else says that's the beginning of real encouragement. Seeing that we can't do is the beginning of doing it. Now, let's work for the next 20 years on that.